A whole mood.
When the cameras roll and the mics are hot.
That's right, we back for another Monday. Hey.
This group of preteens, teens, and young adults don't hesitate to say what's on their minds.
How to voice your opinion without a filter or restraint, and kind of giving a voice to the voiceless.
Jada, Jalen, Keela, Melissa, Samuel, and moderator Laureen Pryor tackle the big issues ripped from the headlines.
As Black students and people, sometimes we aren't fine.
This safe space, a podcast.
Black versus the Board of Education.
Food baby.
We in here, yeah, we in here. 'Cause we been.
Y'all better get comfortable with saying black.
We in here, yeah, we in here.
Black versus the Board of Education.
'Cause we came here, rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here. 'Cause we came here, rid of us now. And you know that we don't ever go for 'cause we been here.
That's why we are indeed a whole mood.
That's it.
And you know it wouldn't be a Monday party without the crew from Black versus the Board of Education. Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Ooh, we got a lot to talk about today.
President's Day.
Dead presidents, right?
It's the only one I got in my pockets.
All right. And they in my pocket too.
Say that.
We welcome you into this space for another Monday edition. Today we have a special guest and our episode is called What's the 411?
I like that.
Ooh,
That's tough.
That's
That's tough.
Where are my co-hosts, sir? Pull them up so we can get these introductions out the way because we can't leave our guests waiting too long. Sam is hitting the corner or hitting the block. Sam, go ahead and introduce yourself. Hey.
Hello, my name is Samuel.
Where did energy go?
I like sports.
Oh, thank you for
All right, where did energy go?
Miss Anaya. Hey.
Hey everyone, my name is Anaya, and I'm currently a senior in high school.
Well, welcome to the party, Jalen.
My name is Jalen. I am a college student, and
Why you sound like a robot?
because you caught me off guard. I'm thinking we were going to Melissa.
Come on,
Right.
hey. It
my
can
fault.
go. It can go
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah,
It can go anyway. Who?
Robot.
Jada. Hey.
Hey, y'all. My name is Jada. I am a homeschooled senior here in the Elk Grove area. Put that out. I'm glad to be back.
Perfect.
Uh-oh.
And I'm ending with Melissa today because Melissa spent her weekend performing at the Pan African Film Festival. Come on, girlfriend. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. I am a junior in Southern California and really excited about today's episode.
Awesome. And our episode.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
And you do that one more time, I'm gonna hit you in front of everybody. Stop it. We do have a special guest in the building, Miss Madisen Keavy from CBS 13. Hey.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome to the party. Go ahead and pull that microphone just a little closer
Yeah,
to you. Yes,
hello.
talk to me, sis.
I
Yes,
I got to get used to the podcast realm versus the TV realm, So I love this. This is great.
This time you're on the
welcome.
camera.
This time I'm in your hot seat. So I like that.
So go ahead and introduce yourself. I know I gave a tiny introduction, but go ahead and introduce yourself for the people who may be joining us right now. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Madisen. I am a local reporter at CBS here in Sacramento, at CBS Sacramento. And I cover all things news of the day and everything in between, basically, on television.
Well, now tell me this, because you came here to do a story on or you called me about a story on Tyree Nichols.
Yes.
And then I told you about what we do here, and you wanted to do a follow-up story on the podcast. So why did you decide maybe that's something that would interest you?
Well, I think just because the way you described it was youth voices. And I think that we as a station really have been trying to bring in more youth voices, youth mental health. We're moving away from the pandemic time where everyone's at home, and there was so much lost in that time for young adults and young people not being able to be at school and be in those extracurriculars. And so when you talked about that, it seemed like an interesting kind of different type of therapy that I wanted to hear about. And it also seemed like an opportunity for youth to tell their own story. And I think that that's also something that I try to do instead of just talking about the people that are impacted by the stuff. Let's actually go talk to, the youth themselves instead of just talking about them.
And I just have to tell you the story that you released last week. Oh my goodness. So first of all, we were in Louisiana and I hear this chicken right here. I hear her screaming in the other room and I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you?
She's like, shut up, I gotta be somewhere early. I was like, I'm sorry, we're on the news.
So she's the one who actually told us that there was a story. And so I had her share it in the group chat and you got a text.
I got a text from somebody I haven't seen since I was in 8th grade. And he sent me the picture of us on the news. And this was before the extended version came out that we got the link. And he was like, man, I see you on the news, man. It was crazy.
I love that.
Wow.
And so we are just thank you for telling allowing them to tell their story in such a positive light. Because I think that a lot of times people think that young people don't know what they're talking about or don't have feelings or opinions about things. And we've done a job here trying to make sure we cultivated a space that was safe enough for them to come and to be authentically themselves and to be cheered on. But another part of that is when you do such a positive story and you have negative Nancy's in the comments section. And I know you probably haven't seen the comments, but I want to kind of show you.
We're
gonna go probably one by one. Tevin, where is that first comment? Number one issue: finding their fathers.
I'm giggling.
Jada, where your daddy at?
He's at home, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pop's at the crib.
Yeah.
Sammy, where's your dad?
Downstairs.
Downstairs.
Anaya, where's your father?
At my house right now.
Oh, okay. Melissa, you know where your dad's at?
He's at the house.
Oh,
yeah.
Jalen, how about you?
Pop's at the crib.
Yeah.
He been at the crib.
So y'all know where your fathers are?
Of course.
Okay, next comment. I mean, and if he wants to, he can actually go and refer to our podcast that we had that dealt with King Richard the movie, where the dads actually joined us for an episode.
Present.
And they are present and accounted for.
Yep.
All right. And this one says, hit all issues. Don't be like mainstream media. Melissa, hit all issues?
Yeah, I mean, not all issues. We hit all of the issues that we feel like aren't talked about. I feel like that's an interesting comment. It's a valid opinion. We don't want to be like mainstream media because mainstream media doesn't cover all of the issues, which is kind of, the comment's kind of contradictory because mainstream media doesn't cover all of the issues and we're covering the issues that mainstream media doesn't cover.
Right. Samuel, hit all the issues?
I don't know what you want. I mean, when we hit the issues, you're like, hit all the issues. What issues do you want? I mean, first off, it's unrealistic to have somebody hit all the issues. People need to focus on issues that are important to them. You can't just be wide scope everywhere because then your attention is nowhere. If you're focused on everything, then you're focused on nothing.
That was a domer.
That was good.
No, that was a domer. I like that. That's a domer. That's a domer.
That sounds like a t-shirt.
Hey, that's a domer. I like that one. That was tough.
Next comment, please, sir. You don't got one? Oh, good for them, but I hope they don't pick and choose issues they want to talk about, like mainstream.
A lot of mainstream media here, which I love that these are comments on the CBS story, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me when they talk about don't be like the mainstream media. The reason why we're talking about what we're talking about is because mainstream media doesn't talk about them. Yep. And my thing is, we're talking about our issues. It's not our job to talk about everybody's issues and represent everybody. We're representing the Black community. You want to talk about your issues? Talk about your issues.
Develop your own podcast.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's just like, I hope they don't pick and choose the issues they want to talk about. Well, what the hell else we supposed to do? Ain't we supposed to pick what we want to talk about, Anaya? Come on.
Like, that's okay.
Well, look at your episodes too. I mean,
there's 70 something episodes. Pick one.
Right. You pick one.
What you wanted to talk about? And you know what? We do take suggestions of things that people want us to talk about, but if it ain't something that's important to us, we're not gonna talk about it. And that's just what it is.
Period.
Come on, Melissa. You coming off mute? What happened?
Yeah, because then if we talk about things that we aren't passionate about or don't have a connection to, then it's not genuine anymore. And the conversations we have are genuine conversations because we all feel some sort of way about it. We could talk about something random, but I don't know if you're going to get an hour out of us. So I mean, like, it has to be a genuine topic that has a genuine connection between all of us because we bounce off each other's energy. We can't do that if it's something that we don't want to talk about.
Say that.
Next comment, please, sir. Oh, it's the podcast. Now there was another one. Let me see, because I thought there was one more, and I wanted to make sure we actually went through it. So let me see what you put in here.
There was one more, but I think it was repetitive to finding.
Oh, no. They said, how are their grades at school?
Ooh. Okay.
So I'm trying to understand. Are you saying if they don't have good grades, they don't have the right to share their opinion?
Are you calling us unintelligent? I'm lost. Like, are you saying that our opinions about a situation are valid because our grades aren't, or supposedly aren't at a place? Like, would that be determining our intellectual? Like, it seems like a diss, low-key. Like, I feel like they're trying to call me unintelligent.
Anaya, what do you think about that? First of all, tell me, how are your grades in school?
Currently I have straight A's. I expect nothing less for myself. No, but yeah, like Jada said, I don't know why grades would matter in this situation. It reminds me when we went to LA and we were at the Tupac exhibit and he said something on the lines of mathematics and arithmetic, but you can't talk about basically like real world things. Like that doesn't, me having good grades in school has nothing to do with being street smart. That has nothing to do with that.
Right.
Yeah. Samuel, how are your grades, sir?
Straight A's, 4.0, all AP classes. So I don't know what you want me to do. And then what does this have to do with anything? I mean, emotional intelligence doesn't have anything to do with grades. But if you want to bring them up, I can bring them up. I mean,
period.
Flex on them. Come on,
Melissa,
King.
how are your grades in school?
My grades are fantastic. I am actually currently dually enrolled in high school and college. I'm halfway to my associate's degree in business. So my grades are excellent. Thanks for asking. I don't know what grades has to do with 70 plus episodes talking about the things these people don't want to talk about or don't have the intelligence to talk about. No idea.
Miss Jada, how are your grades, ma'am?
My grades are beautiful, and just like Melissa, I'm actually dually enrolled, so I'm also taking college courses. So I'm acing both. Thanks for asking.
Talk to him, twin.
Casual.
Jalen.
I mean, I'm a couple credits away from getting my degree. I got a
Period.
3.7. You know,
Period.
just something kind of slight.
I mean,
little
just
accounting.
in case people want to know.
But just a little accounting degree. Nothing major. I mean,
just something easy.
Like, just come on now. Like, what are we talking about?
They don't know what they're talking about. They just in the comments.
They just want to say anything that is stereotypical that they think that would hurt. I mean, we done seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was creative, maybe it might have got under my skin. But I done seen this 1,000 times. But then I got ammo for the rebuttal. So who cares?
And to me, these comments are just kind of like, they're kind of, it's interesting because these are the exact comments that make me feel like this is why we're talking about what we're talking about, because we have a lot of ignorant people out there in the world trying to voice their opinions about something, and we're doing it on an educational level, and it's just like you're kind of proving our point on why we talk about what we talk about, because we have people like you out here in high positions that are making our lives as black people
we
harder.
don't know if they in high position.
They ain't in high position. High position people don't be coming on YouTube.
Not these specific people.
Look at Mama flexing in the comments though. Come on, Miss Tawana.
4.3. Okay, really?
Come on, the poet laureate. Flex on a student school board member. You better put some respect on Melissa's name. That's what I heard, Mama. Put some respect on it.
She ain't gonna talk about my daughter like that.
And then this is the thing, because I think you were saying you were surprised that there would be any negative comments. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think surprised because when we do a story and you were all so vulnerable with me and agreed to do that you didn't owe me that story. You didn't owe me anything.
Mhm.
And to put that out there and knowing the joy that I had telling that story and the joy reactions that I got from people directly to me, that I guess I was surprised of what could you find that was negative in that story, which is my naivete of just people can find something wrong with anything.
Yeah.
And it does, in being in this position of telling people stories, especially vulnerable stories, about whatever it is, it does, the comment section is always a tough place to be. And I guess you can find it with anything. And I'm just constantly surprised by that, because I always hope that joy will come through to the other side and people will just don't type. You can think it all you want, but typing it is just such a different act.
Right. It's like they're committed to this. they're committed to their negativity. They're like, they're gonna see this. It's like, oh, okay.
And we did see it. And I think that as the moderator of this podcast, who is very, very serious about these young people, people can say what they want to say about me, but you come for these kids, then we really have a problem. We said from the gate, they would come in and they would be able to say exactly what they wanted, when they wanted, how they felt it. And us grown-ups, we would be the barrier to kind of protect them from this vitriol that is out there. Now, I don't know if these were adults who took time to comment on this. I don't really care. The point is, these are young people with feelings. These are young people who have, dreams and aspirations. And what we're not going to tolerate is that anybody coming in here trying to trample on their right to freely exist as autonomous human beings. We're not playing that. And I think that the issue is you always have someone in the comments speaking negatively when it's something positive about Black children.
Yep.
That's what we see constantly all the time. And we're not going to play that here. And I welcome them, whoever they are, under their pseudo names, however you say that word. I welcome them to come in here and sit in the hot seat.
Well, and I think that's the thing. You see these comments and it's not their real names. You click on that.
Right.
And that to me is, the braveness of putting out to, this is Market 20. That story aired in Market 20 in the United States. And I think at any given
that to us,
so basically, based on your size of city, there is a list of, number one being New York, LA, and onwards. Sacramento, Modesto, Stockton is our market for television news. And so that is measured, that it is by population in those cities that we cover, the 20th largest television market in the country.
Stop playing with us.
So, to come on, you all used your real names. You let me put your faces on television, be very vulnerable. Let me share the episodes where you're talking about heavy subjects. And then to have an anonymous commenter, that's the part where I get protective as a reporter, because that was a story that I know was, maybe not specifically difficult, but hard to share and be vulnerable in that way, knowing the audience that would see it. So that's the frustrating part of come on.
Yeah.
Like, what did you win from that?
Yeah.
Nothing. They got their little, how many minutes we've been talking? They got their little 18 minutes and we going on about our business.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure that people know that we don't fit your stereotypes. All of these children know where their dads are.
Right.
All of them have excellent grades. All of them are in school and are here Mondays to talk to you about things that are impacting them and in their community. And we're very, very proud of them. They should be proud of themselves. And it isn't just me. Just because you see me as the only adult in the room, understand there's a lot of adults behind the scenes, and Miss Tawana is one of them. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
There's a lot of us that are ready to go to war for our children and to protect our children from people who would come in and try to dim their light. We want our babies to shine. So
I need sunglasses right now. Their light is not dimmed. Can report, firsthand reporting, there is no dimmed lights here from those comments.
And Samuel, were you coming off mute? What were you trying to say?
So, if you got haters, that means you're famous. We're up right now. We're winning. Come on now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They know our names. That's
hey, let's go.
If you ain't got haters, you ain't doing nothing right.
Well, some of them just need to go sit down and shut up.
They a little bored. They a little bored.
Seriously. But enough about that. So I want to know about you. And I'm sorry, I just stepped on your foot.
No,
sorry.
you're good.
Let's switch gears because we're done with that. That they got enough time from us, and we're gonna keep it going. So tell us about you. What brought you to Sacramento besides the news? Where were you before? Like, tell me all about it. I want to hear it.
So I was born in California in the Central Valley. If
Okay.
anyone's familiar with Visalia,
I
Fresno.
am. Mhm.
Yep.
And so I went to school in Southern California for college and went for broadcast journalism. And
What college did you go to?
I went to USC.
Oh,
Fight on.
Fight on.
Fight
Fight
on.
on. Come on. I'm a very big USC fan. And after college, I knew I wanted to report. And like you guys saw, I come with my own camera. I can shoot right,
Yeah,
edit
you-
for myself.
Yeah,
She
she
did all
came.
of
She
it.
came with
She
all
came
angles.
ready.
She said,
Yeah,
she's like, I'm just gonna get behind you right here. I was
Oh,
like,
and let me do some
okay.
Be Real.
No, she was. She said, "I got 3 cameras. I'm setting
She
them
said, keep
all
talking,
up."
keep talking.
Right.
She said, "Y'all just keep talking. Y'all good. Y'all good."
It's like I wish I had like 8 arms for those days, but that's what we were taught
So
to
did
do.
you do the editing on that story yourself?
I did, yeah.
Stop
That was-
playing with her.
Yeah, that was all. Yeah. So it's great. So I learned how to do that in college. And then after college, it was like, all right, you're going to go somewhere that's not LA and maybe a little smaller so you can practice this and, make your mistakes, so to speak, on TV where maybe fewer people will see you.
Right.
But there's still people that see you. So those mistakes still very much count. And so I went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I lived in Tennessee for almost 5 years. And I reported there and became an anchor there. And Tennessee is very different from, parts of California. And so that was a shell shock coming out of Los Angeles to Knoxville, Tennessee to do this job, no friends, no family. And we just did it. We just, it was just a little adventure. And it was a lot of fun to put myself out there in that way and sort of free fall in Tennessee in a place I never thought I would call home. And yet I was there for almost 5 years.
So is it like, what I think of, is it kind of like these athletes, right? When they get a new home or a new team, they just transfer out. So is it the same kind of like in the?
I would say that because then Tennessee was my home. I was telling stories for Tennesseans and really tried to become part. And I think I did a good job at that, of becoming part of that community and really learning what was important to them. And then when the pandemic happened, I realized how far, when we weren't able to fly, it was like, wow, I really, I can't get to my people. Yeah. And, I had proven to myself that I could go somewhere else. And so then I moved back to California, and it was just kind of a meant to be job. It was just the perfect opportunity to be at CBS. And it was kind of I have a lot of pinch me moments of like, wow, I can't believe I get to do this job in an area that I love. And that it feels very familiar, even though I'm not from Sacramento. It's just feels like a bigger, the stories are very similar to where I grew up. So it's comfortable in that way.
And I'm going to throw it to our young co-host out here. Samuel has his finger up. What's up, Sam?
Okay. So first question. What was your first experience as a reporter? Like your first experience when you first got on the job?
Ooh, my first experience. Wow. I have not thought. My first story was, I actually do remember, I didn't know I was on television that day. I thought we were doing a practice run. Like, you guys,
Surprise.
How old are you when you graduate? 20. I was 22.
Out of college?
22 years old. Literally my first day. And the story was the Tennessee Volunteers, the Vols.
The Lady Vols.
Yeah.
Pat Summitt.
Oh my
Rest in
gosh,
peace.
amazing.
Okay.
We love Pat Summitt.
I love Pat Summitt.
And they were selling fake football tickets, I guess. And so my story was talking to someone who'd gotten ripped off on fake football tickets. And heartbreaking news, because he spent a lot of money, and I didn't know I was live. And we, where I went on and I said the thing, whatever we bought the tickets and back to you. And I got up and I was like, all right, I'm ready. When do we do the real hit? And everyone was like, that was just on television. And I was like,
surprise.
Cool. let's do it again tomorrow. And so that was my first experience of not realizing I was on TV, but I was on TV.
Do you think it made it easier?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
No
I believe
nerves.
that.
I was like, oh, I'm going to get this practice run done. And then when I'm live, I'm really going to deliver. Nope, you don't get that. That's live TV. You just go. So yeah.
No.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, these podcasts are absolutely live. So
Right,
if you
it's
mess
just
up,
like-
it's gonna
right?
be on there.
It's just like that. Yeah.
Melissa, do you have a question for our esteemed guest?
Yeah, I do have a question. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about people in positions of power, and their goals when they are in positions that other people might not be in. So what is your goal with your job? What do you want to hopefully accomplish? What is your goal overall?
I think my goal overall, and this is what I've always said, is I would want the people that I love to be able to turn on the television and see me reporting wherever they live. So whatever that looks like. And right now I have met that goal because we stream. So mom and dad can watch. But I think for me, that's, I want to be able to have the biggest impact on the most, number of people. Maybe that's national, maybe that's just in a bigger local market. But I think that I really love what I do, and I do it because I want to impact people in a way, and make a difference. And I feel like I want to keep doing that on a bigger and bigger scale. So it's kind of vague, but I also don't want to pinpoint myself, because then if you don't hit that goal, is it a fail or are you just reevaluating? So I try to just be, my happiness has to be something that I know is achievable and at every step. And for me right now, that is possible with streaming. And maybe someday that'll be just turning on the TV, channel, whatever, and I'm there.
That was low-key a bar though, too. You heard it?
Yes.
Wait, you heard it too?
I heard it.
If we fail, if we don't reach it, is that a fail or is it just a what?
Reevaluation.
That's kind of hard.
Yeah. That actually,
Is that a t-shirt, Jalen?
That might be a t-shirt.
Honestly, that makes me think though.
Be a t-shirt.
That makes me think though, because I'm really hard on myself when it comes to certain things. When I set goals and I don't reach them, and I, my first instinct is I didn't reach it, so I must be like a failure or something. But I never really thought about it as, well, maybe I'm just reevaluating.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Wow.
It takes the pressure off. I
It
mean,
does.
it does. And
It really does.
it makes it, because I'm the same way. I'm type A, a lot of pressure, perfectionist. And so I had to figure out through trial and error of, okay, how can I reshape this where I don't feel like I'm, constantly, if I do fail, or if it doesn't, it's not a fail. It's just, there's something better.
Yeah.
Miss Anaya.
Okay, so it's kind of has a couple parts, but the question ties into it. Who or what inspired you to start, and why did you start?
I think like all of you, I think I'm just very curious, and I can tell in watching your episodes and meeting you all, I was always the kid in elementary school where the teachers would say, does anyone else have a question other than Madisen? and I think about that now, and I think about those teachers, and I'm like, that was really probably not the best way, because I felt embarrassed then to ask questions.
Right. Yeah.
But once I got over that, I think I was just, so I just was very curious. And some people would say you're a busybody. I just wanted to know what's going on over there. How did that person?
So you was nosy.
I was
No,
nosy.
she was inquisitive.
Good.
Yeah.
Inquisitive. Change nosy
Inquisitive.
to inquisitive.
Okay, but that's still a positive.
Nosy is good.
It's
Nosy is
nosy.
good. Sticking your nose in
it may
people's
be
business?
good, but the way that they say, like, "Oh, you're nosy," that's not
So?
like a good thing. They'd be
Who
like, "Oh,
cares?
my bad.
I wear it like a badge of honor.
I am nosy."
because that's what this job is. It's like, tell me a little bit more about that, of you're sitting next to someone on a plane and they're upset and you're like, what's going on? Like, or they're super, like those kinds of things. So, and I think just as far as like being inspired, and when my parents will listen to this, if they're not already watching live,
Hey, Mom and Dad.
Hola.
but I think I give a lot of credit to them. Neither of them are in journalism. My dad's grandfather was a longtime newspaper guy in LA during the height of old Hollywood. So he claims genetics gave it to me from his side of the family. But I think they both just always encouraged me. They always answered my questions. And I think that is, you can't underestimate having those people, whether it's your parents or your friends or whoever, that answer your questions. And I think that I realized it felt really good to get my questions answered. And now I get to do it for a living.
Samuel, did you say you had another question? Is that what I saw? Come on.
What were some unrealistic or kind of unreachable goals or aspirations that you had early in your career that haven't worked out?
Ooh. See, that's a good question. I wanted to not live in, I wanted to stay in LA. I wanted to stay in a big city. I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be in LA, Chicago, like right out of the gate. I was like, I know that this is what people tell me I have to do, go to the smaller town to do this. But I, in my mind, being that type A of like, I'm going to just prove them wrong. I had my eyes set on that. I was like, I'm going to be the one that gets to the top quicker than anyone gets to the top. And that didn't happen. And I'm so glad it didn't happen, because you're not ready. It's the top for a reason. And I was so not ready to be living and working in that size of a market. And
what made you realize that, though, that you weren't ready?
When I failed in Knoxville. When I had days, and again, maybe not failed, but when I had days where I didn't have a good story, or I couldn't get the person on the phone, or something made air that maybe was a little bit wrong. Like, hey, I actually, that isn't the context of my quote, and not, you edited it for time or whatever. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, if I can't make it here, I'm not ready to make it there. And this is okay. Like, what am I in a hurt? Like, I was chasing this, like, get me to the top. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, it's fun to be kind of not great at something. Again, it's fun to be the person that has to learn, and how fun it is to just be 22, 23 and get to go home at the end of the night and be living in my own apartment. And like, I was missing out on all that other stuff. Like in that goal, I was like, I'm going to get to LA, not realizing like how fun it is to have friends and do things outside of it, So that was when I realized, slow the roll. You're going to get where you need to be when you need to be there.
Gotcha. Jalen.
So what was your you made it moment?
Oh. Is this seat hot, or is it just no? I think my you made it moment was I got to work on a story also in Knoxville that I got to do with 2020, which is the ABC national thing. And I had heard from, kind of like your situation, I'd heard from a lot of people in my town, my small town, that I hadn't heard from in a while when that aired, and just saying, hey, I saw you. And I realized at that point that I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. Going back to that goal of like people that I cared about being able to see my work. And then I think getting to Sacramento was a whoa moment as well.
Really?
I think
why?
I know.
Look at her face.
Nah, don't do that. No. You know what I learned? No, Sacramento, the greatest city on earth.
Okay,
light the
let's
beam.
relax.
Come
Light
on,
the beam,
guys.
baby.
Okay, yeah, cool.
I mean,
like the beam, but like,
I like the beam. The beam is cool.
Yeah,
We
great.
like the beam.
What
Greatest city
are we
on
gonna
earth.
do with that?
Yeah, I just think getting professionally, I felt like I made it when I got here, because I was working with a team that respected and valued what I was bringing to the table, and I was getting to be involved, and I get to be involved in conversations of, big stories that we do and things like that, and that was a cool feeling of, it was trust. I think that's when I knew I made it, when there was trust between me and the people I was working with in a way that I felt like it was a collaboration instead of just me taking marching orders all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's dope. I just want to remind the audience, you are listening to Black versus the Board of Education. This episode is What's the 411 with Madisen. Keavy, Jada, do you have a question?
I do.
And Sammy, I'll come right to you afterwards.
So it's a two-part question if you can answer the first one.
Okay.
So I would say my first one is, was there ever a moment, or were there moments, but what was your biggest moment that you felt like that you wanted to give up? Was there ever a moment that you felt like you wanted to give up? And if so, what made you keep going? Because you're still here and you're doing great, by the way. So
we don't have enough time in this podcast for me to tell you how many times I wanted to give up.
Give me one, just one.
I think it was 2020. It was 2020. Hold on, let me get my dates right here. It was 2020. It was December. I was home for my first Christmas in 6 years. And I didn't want to go back to Tennessee. And I had a job. I mean, I was in that job for another couple months and I didn't want to go back. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't be away from my family. I don't know what my next steps are. I don't know. There was just a lot of unanswered questions. And I was just ready to just be done. And it was my mom and dad that were like, hey, whatever comes, just get back. You got 2 more months left in that contract of being there. Whatever comes next, if you come home without a job, if you come home, we will come and we will get you when the time is done. And that got me through. And that was a moment of like, I'm not getting on the plane. I was like, I'm not getting on the plane. I'm going to call. My parents were like, no, this is not happening. Like, and it was that, it just felt heavy to go back and do that. And I'm obviously so glad that I did, because it was a moment of, okay, it was just the clearest sign of it's time to come home and do my job at home.
W parents.
W
parents.
Yeah, they're really getting a lot of, they're going to be freaking out.
Come on, parents.
Yeah. But
We love
yeah,
to see you.
that was a good moment.
Samuel, and then I will come to Anaya.
Okay. What was a story, besides our story, that you were most invested and interested in as a reporter?
That's right, Sam. We'll put in the plug.
Good
okay.
plugs,
okay.
man.
Besides our story.
No, I really, and I will say, not just because I'm on your podcast, that was a story that I had so much joy putting together. It really was a story that I will carry with me and will always come back to. Aside from that, I would say, I'll give you a recent example because I was just thinking about her this week. I met a woman a year ago whose family was trapped in Ukraine when the war started. And she lives in Elk Grove. And I don't know. She was young. She's younger than me. And she shared with me, and it was part of the story, so I feel comfortable sharing it now, in some of our interviews and conversations, that she was pregnant and how excited she was. And she was scared her family would not be able to make it back out of Ukraine. You know, she hadn't talked to them in days. I mean, that was like right at the beginning when it was like, you know, the roads are closed. And from the stress of worrying if her family was going to make it out, she had a miscarriage. And she shared that with me. And then she was comfortable sharing it in the story as well. And that story I think about her a lot, and I think her family did make it home. I met her grandparents, her mom, her dad, her brother, and they speak very little English, but we were able to communicate in such a beautiful way through her, but also just hugging and, you know, squeezing hands and things. I just carry that with me because she was so vulnerable and so honest about what Ukraine was like and what her family was going through. And I think it really reminded people here locally that we're not that far away from the things that are going on in the world. And that story, I think about her a lot. So I carry her with me, and I'm thinking about her because that's a year ago.
Miss Anaya?
Both of my questions, Sam and Jada, you asked them. Great questions. But I thought of another one. If you feel comfortable sharing, what is the best and worst thing about the job you have?
Oh yeah. I will say, I will say I like that question because I think the more honest we are in any of our fields of the good and the bad, I think it actually opens more doors for people to say, is that something I can do?
For sure.
So I'll start with, I think the bad, the hard, the challenging part is just how people perceive reporters in 2023. And I think that is a challenge because when I'm out doing my job live somewhere, people will come through, they'll yell, they'll scream. Sometimes people come up to the camera and come up to us and are interacting with us in a way that you would never interact with someone else as they're doing their job. And I think that the hard part and the thing I don't like is just because we're on television and you see us doesn't mean that there's an open invitation to be in my space.
Period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
And so that's hard. And I think that is a challenge. And I hope that it gets better. I hope that journalists and reporters and folks in news that are like me, that just do this because we really do care, are perceived as that a little more across the board from wherever you are in whatever city or state. I think the best part about it is just the people, which is such a cheesy thing to say, but like I'm sitting here on your podcast and we were all strangers a month ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best part is just you go home at night and you just feel like, wow, there are a lot of really amazing people out there that are doing things and talking about things that I could never do, but I got to play pretend and talk to them and how joyous is that? So I think that's the good of it.
I like that. I like that answer. Uh-huh.
Skip.
Skip.
I got a question. So,
and then
who has a question?
I'm gonna put it on Jada, but then we're gonna go back to Sam because he keeps sending me stuff
My
in
bad,
the
Sam, my
private
bad.
chat.
My question is, have you ever had conflict with any industry that you were working for? Did you ever have any kind of in-office conflict that made it hard to do your job?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. With women.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
I'm a big, I talk about this very openly. Women support women. There is enough room at the table for everyone. You can't do what I do. I can't do what you do. And it was not here. So I'm not talking about anyone I work with now. But yeah, it was women, and it was a woman, and that was hard. Of when you
Older
look
or younger?
older, which what
makes sense.
really,
Yeah.
you know, the intimate.
Were you the new pretty young
correct?
girl?
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And there's that,
Haters.
you know, and I'll be your mentor. Let me tell you how things go.
And you didn't want a mentor?
And you realize, wait a minute, what are you mentoring me? You're pitting me against other women that have opportunities that I'm not getting. Sure, but that doesn't mean it's their fault.
Right.
Right? Like those women are good to me. That woman is good to me. Why? And that was a big aha moment where I had to swallow my pride, pick up the phone, call the person that I had been, let's say it pitted against, and say, hey, that was on me. I did that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a robot and say, oh, she brainwashed me. She didn't, but I'm seeing clearly, and I'm so sorry. And can we work on having not just a colleagueship, but a friendship again? And by the grace of all that is good, we are good. And she is one of my closest confidants in this industry, but also as a friend. So it was women. And so that's why I'm always the first to be like, come in, girl. Like, what are we talking about? You know, let's all be in here. We're all on the same team. There's plenty of room to go around.
Wow. And before I go to Samuel, I do see the question in the chat. Any educational articles reported?
Educational articles.
I'm just thinking educational stories, but the comment says articles. So have you reported on any educational stories?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Lots of them.
Lots of them, Mama Margie.
Yes.
Lots
of them. From teacher strikes to budget stuff. Why are we spending money on that?
You ever did one on disproportionate discipline? You want to do one?
Yeah, we could. We
Okay,
should.
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because Elk Grove Unified has been labeled as significantly disproportionate in the rates in which they label Black boys as emotionally disturbed. And I would really love to get a story on that going.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Number one in the state
for disproportionate discipline of Black
Number
children. Period.
one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we should
And I
talk
live
about
here.
that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Samuel?
Was there ever a story that you covered that really contrasted or challenged your personal beliefs?
Oh, no, that's a great
good
question. That's
right
and that's one of the one. That's one of the ones right there.
Yeah. Yes. I think that living and working in a state where where just being who you are is questioned, and there's a lot of laws on it, and there's a lot of discourse on it. Living in Tennessee, I think that was that was hard, of just hearing those types of things and that kind of rhetoric. And I think back to, that was the first example I thought of when you asked me, have you read the comments? Because I did a story in Tennessee with a wonderful trans woman, and she has a beautiful safe space hair salon, and all are welcome. And that story's comments, I actually asked the web team at the time to disable them
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I just didn't feel like it was helping anything, because it wasn't. And, she was so lovely, and she said, I don't even read the comments. I don't care what people are saying about me. And that was one of those where it was like, I agree with the story, but when you do the stories then on the other side of that, of the laws and talking to the politicians that didn't support her right to be who she was, like those were the stories that needed to be reported on. Here's where the legislation is. Here's what people are saying. And those are hard ones to do because, those politicians, what they're saying mattered at that time because it was part of the legislation, but it was hard for me because, I do think that, all people are all people. So we got to be talking about something else at this point.
Right.
So that was hard. Those stories were hard.
Yeah.
Anaya, do you have a question?
I do. Okay, so we talked about you wanting to give up or quit, but what is the thing that kept you going?
The feeling I get and got after a story that I felt like was seen, and by what I mean by that is that I knew what we had put out was either good investigation, made a difference, had someone's loved one maybe who was lost in a conflict, gun violence, remembered. Like the aftermath of a story of how I felt sitting in that when I went home for the day, where I felt like I actually accomplished something. That is what kept me going, because I just thought of, in those moments where I was like, I can't do this anymore, I'm tired, this, that, the other. Those were the stories that I was like, but what if I just did one more like that? Ooh, what if, man, this could be a really good story. What if I just do that tomorrow? And then you sort of get out of that, I'll call it a funk. Those are the ones that really, where I'm like, wow, I didn't just go to work today. I actually did some work today, which I think is a good feeling.
Finally got my question. Okay. So
yes.
You heard him
all
over
right.
there, Skip.
Yeah.
Skip.
Yeah. He's back.
So I have this view of the news. I don't really like to watch it because a lot of the times, a lot of the news is very, very traumatic, like gun violence, all that type of stuff, and you report on it. So how do you keep your mental health in check?
Dang, you stole mine.
My fault, G. My fault, G. My fault, G. Hey, y'all was too late to the party.
No, you was late.
He was like, I'm gonna do that. How do I? Well, it's a learning process. Every single story that gets to me. I think I have to clock out. So like this weekend, I didn't log on to like work email. I keep what's going on. I like to know, a little bit, but I try not to watch because when I'm watching the news, I'm like, oh, this could be a story. This could be a thing. I also try to just get out of my own way. So I love cooking. And so that's kind of my go-to, like a good workout and cooking, something that my mind can't even be on the thing that's in front of me. And I also think I have recently started seeing a therapist again for therapy, which I'm a huge proponent of. And just talking to someone about what that trauma feels like. And I think that's been a huge weight off my shoulders, where having someone say, it's okay to feel like, because we're told we're not the story, and I'm not the story, but I still have to witness the story.
Yeah.
I still have to talk to the story, and I still go home and I'm a human being, and I'm like,
You're sitting in it.
I'm sitting in it. And if I'm alone and I'm not doing something productive, I will just sit in that. And so it's a balancing game where I have to, and I have good people around me that know me well enough at this point in my career to be like, hey, you've gone silent. Are you okay? And that's a great help. But it's definitely, some days and weeks are better than others, where I'm like, ooh, I'm in balance this week. And then other weeks I'm like, whew, I really let myself go as far as mental health goes.
Yeah. And I think that what's so interesting about that, I don't think people ever think about reporters as being human beings with
Right.
feelings
Yeah.
or that carry this stuff
Yeah.
home. We know that as human beings, we do carry this, but it just seems that that's one of the things that really kind of escapes people, that you're actually dealing with real people. Like you want your personal space, just like I want my personal
Yeah.
space. And I just think that that's very interesting. And mine was a little bit different. It said, how do you keep your emotions in check? And the reason I brought that up and I wrote that down is I saw one of your stories that you did maybe a week ago, and you were covering the court date of the person who was involved in that drunk driving, or the alleged drunk driving situation, and the families got into a fight outside the courtroom on the street.
Yep.
And so I think you were out there and you were like,
Correct.
tensions are high. And I'm just like, how are you keeping your emotions in check as you're witnessing the grief, the pain, the anger, all of that from feet away? How did you do that?
Yeah, that was a hard story in general. That was like, when that happened, the family was coming out to the scene and I was out there, and you're seeing that so raw, and it was overwhelming. Then to see it manifest, like you said, outside of the courthouse, I think there's a little bit of, when you see something like that, I've never, very few times are you in a situation where you're watching adults go at it in that way. I mean, cut across traffic to let that other gentleman know what he was saying was not going to go on.
And you said that he was taunting.
He was
You
taunting.
described it as taunting.
Yeah, taunting of it was a victim's one of the victims that was killed in a alleged drunk driving incident was yelling over in front of the jail to the suspect who survived and was in court's father, and was, kind of yelling, kind of like a come over here, come get it kind of a thing. And they were going back and forth, and there were a lot of family members there. And I was actually talking to the suspect's father, of just, I could tell he was upset. And so I was like, do you want to talk about why you're upset? What's going on? And in our mid conversation is when he turned and went into across the street through traffic to this other gentleman, and they just started getting really physical, and other people jumped on to get them apart. And I think that whole takeaway for me was just, I was just stunned, because you don't expect to see grief manifest in that way right in front of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you hear about it, maybe you see it, on television or something. But to see it manifest, it was just a wow. And I the only way I could describe it was that tensions were high. And I did go home that night, and I did cook a long dinner, and I did sit with that, of just the loss that all of those families are feeling, and how it manifested in that way. It just was very human.
Yeah.
And they were very adamant they did not want media, asking them questions. And they were angry that we were there and present in that. And, I understand that, because it was their grief. But at the same time, there was a 12 plus person fight outside of the jail with 10 or 12 sheriff's officers that came out to try to break it up. I mean, it was, traffic was stopped. It was a spectacle.
Yeah.
And we weren't there for that. Obviously, we were there for the court case. So yeah, I think just that was just the shock of it. By the time when I got home, it was like, I need to find something to keep my mind busy, to kind of work through what grief looks like for some people.
Wow. Samuel?
Okay, so my question was, as an experienced reporter, about 10 years in? Around?
Yeah, almost. I'm at 7, I think, maybe 8.
Okay.
So close.
As an experienced reporter, do you feel a responsibility to kind of be a mentor or a role model for younger, less experienced reporters?
Oh yeah. I think we're only as good as the people that we are bringing up with us, so to speak. Like, I think that I have had and been so lucky, and am so lucky to have so many great mentors, both men and women, who have just believed in me, that the only way I know how is to give that back. When I see people that I just want to set a good example. And I think that, one of our newer reporters that I just trained, she says that I'm the rookie trainer, which I love that nickname, because that's how I feel, that I just want everyone to be joyous and to like their job and to feel confident in it. And if I can be a cheerleader for that, I really want to, do that and be that cheerleader for people. It's easy. It's easy to do.
So I have a follow-up question to the emotions part. Do you ever feel a sense of numbness, like to like the stories and stuff like that? And like,
No,
you don't?
I don't.
I
No,
think that's good.
Yeah, we kind of say it within the industry of the second you go numb,
Mhm.
you're not in the right spot anymore. Like you've got it. You can't do this job if you go numb. I think, sometimes I'll think to myself, oh, I wish I could go numb, but I don't actually, because we're just human beings. Like the human part of our jobs is the part that people relate to and connect to. Would it be easier on the backside of processing things? Absolutely. But would I be as good and as valuable and as passionate, and could I contribute good to the world going numb? No.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, like grief is the other side of the coin of love.
Mhm.
And so, for all of the good stories, there are those ones that I carry with me, and that numbness just doesn't exist. It wouldn't help, I think.
Wow. I mean, are you okay?
Yeah.
Need some water? Anybody?
No. I think talking about it too and just being honest about it. I think that like I don't always say, hey, how's your, if somebody asks me how's my day, I'm not always going to say that I'm good.
Right.
Because I don't want to hide that, I can still go to work and still, function through that. But I think that being honest that, especially in this job and just being alive in 2023, like,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think being honest about that, I don't want to be happy-go-lucky all the time. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm also not going to hide that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And to find, therapy or friends or those things that can fill up your cup, because it is temporary, that feeling.
And when I asked you, were you okay? I'm like, they done threw a whole lot of questions at you.
Oh, I thought you meant like, am I emotionally okay?
We never gave you a minute to just breathe and sit.
No, you guys
were like,
are
next question.
No, you're good.
We were trying to get it all in within this hour, and the hour goes really, really fast because we're
know.
at the end of our time.
Amazing.
Can you believe
I
that?
can't.
It's insane.
It just went by so
Wow.
fast. You guys have great questions. I'm going to call you guys to do my question prep on different stories.
Okay. I'm sure they would love that. I'm sure that they would love that.
Sam,
And so before we get out of here, I do have a couple of announcements. Our Black History Month celebration and giveaway is happening this Wednesday at District 56. If you want to come on out and join us, please feel free to do so. We also have a paint and sip that we are doing, a Black History Month paint and sip here in the office, where we'll be painting something. I don't know.
Silhouettes was what I was told.
Silhouettes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, hard body.
Okay. That's what we're doing for that. And that's on the 25th. And also next week on Tuesday, we actually have our second annual open house, and we have expanded our office to include this little section over here. So we're inviting the community to come on in and just kind of see what we're working with. Yes. And so also, you were talking about being a mentor and stuff. And you know what that made me think of? That made me think of our student media program. And so I wanted to know if you would be interested in coming back and kind of sharing with our students what you've learned in the industry and how they can be reporters on their own. Is that something that would interest you?
Yes.
Oh, y'all heard it here. You heard
Sign
it
me
here
up.
first.
Put it on the record.
Okay.
Absolutely. I live for that. I love that.
Love it. So you heard her, Delia. She said she's gonna come on back and impart some wisdom into our students, and we love to see it. So we're at the end of the show.
I know. But before we end, I want to give you your flowers, because that just hearing that, like, I had people reach me that I didn't think I was going to be reached, and I showed we showed the whole family, everybody. During my speech though.
Yes.
You're right. So rude.
But yeah, like, and just like, I never really thought of it from a reporter side. Like, you would understand, like, they're human, but you don't really think about it. You just see the story. You don't think about the people who are reporting on it, and you just giving, like, you being vulnerable and enough to share, like, the stuff that you go through during the job. It really opened my eyes to be like, hey, you know what? I have a lot more respect. I always have respect, but I have a lot more respect for the people that are reporting it because they're going through it like they are in the story. So I just want to give you flowers.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to give you your flowers because I know that a lot of like news people get a lot of hatred because sometimes, like even me, sometimes I always looked at the news with a bad eye because I always felt like they were narrating it from their perspective and it wasn't always real or it wasn't always genuine. So I just wanted to applaud you for always, making it feel genuine and being genuine with the stuff that you do and showing passion and compassion for your stuff. So thank you.
I love it.
You guys are so sweet.
Anybody else? Anybody else want to say anything before we jump out of here? Anaya? Sam?
It was really good talking to you. Like Jalen said, I have a lot of more respect, a lot of more understanding. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
I enjoyed this episode.
I did too.
And Sam's giving you the thumbs up. He has 2 thumbs up.
Ooh,
so you
high
have
praise.
Sam's
That
approval.
was
Come on, Sam.
What the rock eye? The eyebrow.
So with that, we will see you all next week right here live on Facebook and YouTube. We are Black versus the Board of Education, and Anaya is going to start us off with the wave. Girl, that's not the wave.
Go ahead, Sam. Okay. Miss
Come on.
Madison.
I don't know.
No, you said it. Go ahead.
Come on.
Oh.
We'll see you next week.